Slow living, simple living, off-grid living. What are all these things? And perhaps more importantly, what's happening out there? Why are so many of us seeking countercultural lifestyles? I have my suspicions. But first, let's answer the question of the video. What is slow living? Well, there's the modern slow living movement that kicked off in the 80s. Our Italian friends revolted against a McDonald's franchise coming to Rome, and the slow living movement was born. And it was the catalyst for people starting to evaluate the pace of many aspects of life. So one of the most popular books on the subject is In Praise of Slowness by Carl Honore, who was a hurried, fairly typical modern man, until he realized that he was rushing through the best opportunities to connect with his 2-year-old boy. That realization set him on a path to understand how he and the broader culture had gotten so out of control. And in doing so, he discovered a countercultural revolution of people choosing to slow down. Slow living started with food, appreciating regional produce, traditional foods, cooking from scratch. Not surprising, this would be the most spreadable idea. Cross-culturally, we like to eat well, and we feel healthier when we do. But Honore explored the evolution of the movement into all aspects of life, including homes, education, hobbies, work. Some might point to the associated acronym SLOW to explain the movement, which stands for sustainable, local, organic, and whole. Others might say slow living is about being present to and savoring the moment. I love that idea, to savor. And as we've seen the idea spread, more and more people are adopting it into their lives and living it out in their unique way, which might be why I tend to describe it as living intentionally at a pace that enables you to enjoy and allowing yourself to be different. I think that's pretty key. Slow living makes you inherently different.
What is your sister doing?
So coming back to my earlier question, why are so many of us seeking the countercultural life? My suspicion is that a long time ago, our culture diverged from the things our souls crave most deeply. And we're moving at a pace that is literally leaving our souls behind. We never slow down long enough for it to catch up with our bodies. I read about that once in a book, and I can't remember which one, sorry. The idea of slow living didn't start in the 80s. That's the origin of the modern movement, but slow living has been advocated for thousands of years. You can trace it back to many teachers, including Henry David Thoreau and Jesus of Nazareth. As a Christian, I tend to perk up when I hear Jesus' name. His teachings and his example in life pointed to inherent truths about the human condition. So why did he live slowly? What truth was he pointing to? I think it has to do with relationships. When I became a mother, I became acutely aware of the cultural lie that having a child wouldn't change my life. I used to think I'd be that parent who went out for cocktails with friends, like baby in tow.
I'm in a box. You are in a box. That's funny.
I assumed I could keep going at the same pace, accomplishing all my goals, but instead everything changed, and my whole focus narrowed in on this one human being, this precious soul. I think relationships take time. They take slowness and attention.
I saw that. That was so cool.
Especially with children, but truly with everyone. Jesus cared about this because he wanted us to be in relationship with God, and we had to slow down to do it. So why are we all drawn to the countercultural life of slowness? Because we feel chaotic, we feel disconnected, We want to touch dirt and knead bread and knit misshapen sweaters. We want to slow down long enough to snuggle with our kids or spouses. We want our souls to catch up with our bodies. Okay, then how do we start? If you've made it this far, I'm assuming you want to know how to begin. Well, my first recommendation is to accept trade-offs. Part of the reason we cling to speed is because we believe it's possible to do everything. And with that attitude, slow living will just become another thing you have to check off a list. But in many aspects of life, there are no solutions. It's not about greater efficiency. It's about knowing your priorities and accepting the inevitable trade-offs of pursuing those wholeheartedly. Which leads to my second recommendation, which is to pick and rank your priorities. I not only know what my priorities are, I have them ranked. For instance, creative work, which includes YouTube, is fourth on the list. It's below all my important relationships. And this means that I only produce one video a week, and some weeks I'll take off if the choice is to either produce a video or give the important attention to my relationships. Knowing my priorities and their order of importance makes it easier to accept the trade-offs. My third recommendation is to evaluate how you're currently spending time and determine if there is anything that doesn't align with the priorities. If you don't have a good handle on how you spend time, consider tracking your daily activities and the time spent. If you're already very scheduled, it might mean you consider whether you've taken on too much. And once you have a clear idea of how you're spending time, determine whether those commitments support your priorities. And keep in mind, if you're trying to slow down, the result of this exercise might be to do less or to rest more, to make time for play and leisure. And my fourth recommendation is to keep learning about slow living. There are great YouTube channels and podcasts on the subject, but also books: In Praise of Slowness, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, Let Them Be Kids, Essentialism. I'll link a few recommendations below, but those are some of my favorites. Our culture doesn't support what really matters and causes us to bury our instincts. And if you're feeling that, you're not crazy. Your soul is speaking to you. Don't be afraid to listen. Until next time.